Welcome to speaker placement. Probably the biggest, most important part of getting your room to sound good is where you place the speakers within the room. Now, before we get into this module, I want to break a couple myths. I hear this a lot online. You have to put your speakers in an equilateral triangle. No, you don't. Okay, so that's a total myth. It is a recommendation by a lot of things on the internet that you keep your speakers at an equilateral triangle from where you are listening, in your listening position. It's a recommendation, but every recommendation in music and art can be broken, okay? Now, why is that not a hard, fast rule? And there's one thing that makes that not a hard, fast rule. Phantom image. Now, what's phantom image? When you use two speakers, you get a phantom image, a phantom center image. So using two speakers in stereo gives us a center, right? That's where the vocal sits, that's where the kick drum sits, unless you're playing in the Beatles, right? In those Beatles records where they pan the drums off. But this is a very important part of speaker design and placement in a studio, is that your phantom image, when you start panning, you do not want it to dip down or boost up in volume, okay? Now, a simple way to figure out if your speakers are placed too far apart is to take pink noise, run it through your system, and pan the pink noise, mono pink noise, just pan it from left to right. If the pink noise gets louder in the center when you cross the center point, then you need to move your speakers further apart. If it gets a lot less and quieter, you should be moving your speakers closer together. So that way you have a nice panning that never goes up or down. That way you're not making mixed decisions like bringing that vocal up a little bit more because your speakers are too far apart and your vocal's actually coming down in volume when you put it through the middle, right? That phantom image. Okay, now another thing we want to talk about is actually loading your speakers up against different boundaries, right? So the HS5s, a lot of people use them. The KRKs, a lot of people use them, right? The Rockets. These HS5s are back-ported speakers. So if you put them closer to the back of a wall, they're going to get more low end in them. Maybe not low end you like, right? Maybe so. KRKs usually are front ported, so you can put them against the wall and they won't be ported, they won't build up that frequency and couple to the wall as much. So we want to talk about a little bit of that before I get into shooting this room, moving these speakers around until we find that really great center spot where we have a good frequency response. We're getting everything as flat as possible on the low end in that listening position. Because the hardest thing to treat in any room, I don't care how big or how small it is going to be that low end, which is that low mid area. So the 400 hertz all the way down to the sub frequencies. So let's get right into it. We're gonna use this software FuzzMeasure Pro. We're gonna shoot the room with the speakers where they're at right now, completely flattened, no EQ, nothing like that on them, and no trapping as you can see in the room. We don't have any trapping, we don't have anything, it's just a bare slate. So we're gonna figure out where they're at right now, and then we're gonna move these speakers around over and over and over and shoot and over, and we'll fast forward through this, right? So you don't have to go through that whole tedious process. But I'm gonna move these speakers until we can find the flattest position in the listening position for that low end. So let's go, let's get to work.